All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all you guys are having a great week. Just going to do a really quick show this morning because we're going live again tonight. A very important game for both teams. Sacramento Kings got a massive win over the Milwaukee Bucks last night. They will be facing off against a Lakers team that also desperately needs that game and has lost 3 straight to the Kings. And Anthony Davis has got his butt kicked by Domantas Sabonis. So it should be a really, really fun matchup on ESPN tonight. We will be going live on YouTube right after the final buzzer of that game. But today's show, a little short, quick show, we're going to hit one game. The Indiana Pacers have been pretty impressive on the road as of late, but they got a big win over the Oklahoma City Thunder in Oklahoma City, largely on the strength of their defense. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Pacers' new starting lineup and some of the defensive success they've been having, a little bit more about Pascal Siakam's fit, some notes on Tyrese Haliburton, because I always love watching him, and then we'll hit a little bit on the Thunder side. After that, I've got a couple of big picture stuff that I want to hit on. Andrew Wiggins and Brandin Podziemski had a little bit of a yelling match in the middle of their win the other night, and I think that I have some perspective to add to that because I've been in a similar kind of situation back when I was playing in college. After that, I wanted to give my thoughts on the whole we're done with the 90s trend that's going around on social media, just kind of have the 90s back a little bit. And then at the very end of the show, we had one mailbag question having to do with kind of the format of our channel and how it's laid out. So I wanted to kind of help explain why we do things the way we do in terms of the way we roll out content. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel. It would mean a lot to me if you guys would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. It's also really helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT, where you guys can see show announcements as well as film threads. And then last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments. We'll probably have at least one more, if not a couple more mailbags this week. All right, let's talk some basketball. So quick note on this one, no Jalen Williams for the Thunder. Although, again, like you're not going to get a whole lot of sympathy from other NBA fan bases about guys missing games. It's kind of just something that happens, and the Thunder have been kind of uniquely healthy in a lot of ways this particular year, but obviously not a full strength Thunder team. Jalen Williams too is not only has he been playing just incredibly well, has been one of the best pull-up jump shooters in the league, but without him, it's a pretty steep drop-off in overall shot creation. Guys like Josh Giddey can make plays. Guys like Chet Holmgren can make plays. Guys like Gordon Hayward, who's slotted into the starting lineup, they can make plays off the bounce, but they're not really high-level shot creators the way that Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are. And so that is what allowed Indiana to really leverage their defensive strengths on Shai and to kind of wear him down and make things tough on him. Had a really good, strong defensive performance, and they get a big win. Now, this starting lineup that they've been using for a little while now since the trade, Tyrese Haliburton at the 1 next to Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, and Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner. The big key there being going with your defensive-minded perimeter players, the 2 knees, so to speak, Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith, and then putting your core 3 foundational pieces around that. But like, again, I really like the idea of having defensive-minded role players out there. That group of 5 players so far this season has logged a 111 defensive rating, which is solid. That's something you can win with when you're an elite offense like the Pacers are capable of being. Now, they have not been. We're going to get into that. But that 111 defensive rating to me with that group is a really strong indicator that that is their best configuration defensively. And again, you've got in that group a really good perimeter defender in Aaron Nesmith, in my opinion. He's one of my favorites, really, really physical player that can defend bigger wings as well. Good low center of gravity, good at beating people to spots. And then Andrew Nembhard is a really good guard defender, in my opinion. Good physical on-the-ball defender, navigates screens well. And then, again, the key there is like Aaron Nesmith, legitimately a good catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, a real like slashing threat. Like he had a nasty driving dunk out of the left corner in this game where he put Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on a poster. But like he brings like real slashing, like real rim pressure and slashing from that position. And then Andrew Nembhard, I became a big fan of him after a game last year against the Warriors. I can't remember the exact details, but he ran something like 35 pick and rolls in a game against the Warriors and scored like 55 points on them. Just absolutely dissected the Warriors in a game. And I was pouring over the film on that one, and I'm like, this guy's got all the stuff. He's got the pull-up three-point shot off the dribble. He's got the pull-up mid-range shot off the dribble. He can make all the reads. out of pick and roll, like this dude's just a hooper. And like that's translated this year. He's been a guy that can run action and run it efficiently. He's a guy that can knock down catch and shoot threes at a high rate. Hasn't been as good in pull-up situations, but still has been pretty good. Like he's a really good two-way basketball player. And so essentially you take your skill guard, right, in Tyrese Haliburton, a guy that you can't really count on a lot in defensive situations, but the guy that's the hub of your entire offense. You got your mismatch attacking forward in Pascal Siakam. Then you've got your classic rim protecting center that can do a little bit of switching. He's not an outstanding switch defender, but he can do a little bit of switching. And then you've got these two-way role players that are willing to do the dirty work and that can maintain their being a threat on the offensive end of the floor. And all of a sudden you have a pretty useful lineup there. And like 111 defensive rating, like I said, solid. Also 74% in defensive rebounding percentage. Early in the year, defensive rebounding was not a strength for this particular group, especially because they were so weak at those forward positions. And they've been rebounding really well with that specific group. To me, once you get up over that 72, 73%, that's tenable. That's something that you can succeed with in a bigger picture. Now, big drawback, they have struggled to score in that group. They have a 111.5 offensive rating, and that's a specific piece they'll need to figure out. But I'm not particularly worried about that. I think that there's plenty of offensive skill in that group. I think it's kind of similar to what happened to the Clippers early on after the James Harden trade, where like it's more just putting all the pieces together and making it work in the big picture. And I have little doubt that by the time they get to mid-April, that they will be able to figure out those things on the offensive end of the floor. But from the opening tip of this game, Andrew Nembhard did an amazing job on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, just being really physical, holding up on his bully ball moves to the basket, getting great contests, disrupting the dribble pocket. And then Aaron Nesmith as well. He spent a lot of time on Gordon Hayward in this game, but they basically kept him on in waves so that Shai always had a good perimeter defender on him. And then from there, like obviously without Jalen Williams on the floor, they were, conceding and digging down off of Josh Giddey a lot, and they don't have to worry too much about Gordon Hayward hurting them. Chet Holmgren did have his three-point shot going in this game, but was struggling to finish inside the three-point line, which kind of helped slow things down for them offensively. Just a really strong defensive effort for the Pacers. And then on the other end of the floor, I thought this game was a great example. I know he only had 16 points, but it was a great example of Pascal Siakam's skill in matchup attacking. Oklahoma City does a lot of switching in guard actions. And so as a result of that, Siakam got a lot of like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on a switch down on the block. There was like a transition cross match where he beat everybody down the floor and he had Isaiah Joe on him in the post. And they're just able to throw the ball down to him there, and he's able to go force his way close to the basket and score. There even was a pivotal stretch there in the middle of the fourth quarter where the Thunder had Cason Wallace on him. And like Cason Wallace is a really good defensive player who can defend bigger than his size, but he's just giving up a lot in terms of length in that matchup to Siakam. And Siakam was able to just bury him under the rim again. And that was a big part of that run that they went on after Cason Wallace hit a three in the right corner that got it down to one. And the Pacers just immediately blew it open from there. And a lot of it was that Siakam matchup with Cason Wallace and his ability to create quality shots as a mismatch attacking forward. Now, that's where I wanted to kind of dive into this concept as it pertains to team construction, because this is something we've talked about a lot on the show. And ironically, the Nuggets to me are a really interesting example of this. But like we've seen this particular kind of configuration of like skill guard and matchup attacking forward work really well, right? Like the original one was LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, right? Where it's like LeBron is doing all of the high level playmaking and getting the defense in rotation and it kind of managing more of the offense, but he was this guy that like could really pick on mismatches around the floor. Whereas like Kyrie just kind of brought this high level scoring piece. Like there were a lot of possessions during those Cavs playoff runs where LeBron would walk up the floor and just go stand on the wing, and then Kyrie would just dribble up the floor and take 17 dribbles into a step back 2-point shot, and he'd make it 55% of the time or whatever. And that was basically like a release valve to get quality offense while also letting Siakam rest. Now, with this, or not Siakam, excuse me, LeBron rest. This configuration is a little different because the skill guard is the primary playmaker in Tyrese Haliburton, whereas Siakam is more of the on the island scorer. But it's the same kind of thing where it's like Tyrese Haliburton can really just rest now for entire possessions on offense, where Siakam is like taking 17 dribbles to back a guy down into the post and then take his patented little spin move hook shot over his left shoulder, right? Or spin move little jump shot over his right shoulder. He just, that is the same kind of luxury. It is it's not just the matchup attacking element of it, because that's the key, right? Like a skill guard can impact winning as a scorer in XYZ ways, right? But then the matchup attacking forward impacts winning on offense in the ABC ways, right? Like it's like, this guy's too small for me. I'm going to back him down. I'm going to get a really high percentage look close to the basket. Whereas like with Tyrese Haliburton, it's a lot of like shot value in the bigger picture type of stuff, where it's like constantly catching the low-hanging fruit in basketball, which we're going to dive into it in a little bit, but like getting the high-quality catch and shoot threes and transition opportunities, kicking the ball up the floor. Like he's managing the larger workflow of the offense, whereas Siakam is like, on this possession, I can get you a 55% type of shot right by the rim because I got this matchup. And again, like between Jokic and Murray, same kind of thing. Like Jokic obviously is a center, but he's this big, giant playmaking forward, and then Jamal Murray plays this skill guard position, right? And like there's some other examples of it around the league. I think Luka and Kyrie is kind of another example. Luka's kind of your mismatch attacking forward, and Kyrie's like your skill guard. But I've always liked that configuration. It's something I've been a fan of. I think those two specific offensive styles complement each other really, really well. I think you need to be able to do both to win in the playoffs. I think you need to be able to run a high volume amount of pick and roll and just get quality shots out of it. But I also think you need to be able to play bully ball and to get shots close to the rim. And so I just really like that configuration. And I thought last night, and seeing Siakam really taking some of the smaller Thunder guards to task was a great example of that. On the Tyrese Haliburton front, I'm always just impressed by Tyrese Haliburton's game management. He's a guy that we've talked a ton about on the show over the course of the season. I've said I actually think that he's the next great offensive engine in the league. I think he's the next guy that's going to be that guy that we look at that's like, there's just nothing you can do with to stop him from finding a quality shot somewhere on the court. Like he's just the ultimate read maker in the sense that like in transition, he's always going to hit that kick ahead pass and get something out of it. He's that guy that if you run pick and roll, whatever coverage you blitz him, he's going to hit the roll man every single time, develop the 4-on-3. If you drop, he can hit pull-up jump shots and he can hit floaters, right? If you switch it, he can beat the big man off the dribble and make the scoop shots off the glass. If you run a kind of like a 3-on-2 coverage, he's consistently going to make that skip pass to the corner or get a little bit downhill and throw a lob pass to Obi Toppin cutting out of the corner or Pascal Siakam cutting out of the corner. He's the ultimate read maker, right? But specifically, I wanted to highlight the idea of low-hanging fruit. This is something I talked about a lot as we were talking about Victor Wembanyama yesterday, and just like what makes a basketball player the best version of himself is like there's this high level shot making piece, which is super valuable. And we've seen Victor Wembanyama hit just some completely ridiculous step backs and multiple dribble combination types of shots, right? But like the best version of Victor is only going to rely on that for small portions of games. It's going to be just a lot of like easy dunking lobs on rolls to the basket, either on lobs or pocket passes and things like that. It's going to be a lot of picking and popping to the top of the key, knocking down wide open threes or driving closeouts and making plays. It's going to be a lot of him playing with a high level guard one day, ball screen switch, take him down to the post, and then easy basket over the top. Like he's just going to get a lot of low hanging fruit. Jokic, in my opinion, is the master of low-hanging fruit in the NBA right now. Like, he can do all this crazy, difficult stuff, but he just is going to get 15 easy shots a game for himself, right? Like, and for his teammates. Like, that's just what, and probably more than 15 when you factor in his teammates. Like, that's just what he does. Well, that's what Tyrese Haliburton does to me. Or does, in my opinion. Like, he's a low-hanging fruit capitalizer, so to speak. Like, every single kick-ahead pass he sees, he's going to push it up. He's going to get an easy shot out of it. There's a big play in the fourth quarter. I can't remember who it was that was running the left wing, but just, I think it was Neesmith. But the Thunder fell asleep, weren't back in transition. I think Josh Giddey was slow getting back. Just easy kick-ahead pass, get an easy layup, right? If you make any mistake in your coverage, oh, you're dropped too far back, I can make this shot. You helped out of the weak side corner, I can hit this cutter along the baseline, or I can throw that skip pass to the shooter in the corner. Like, I'm going to run a ghost screen, and if you defend it well, I'll just run it again. And if you botch it in any way, shape, or form, I'm just going to make the right read, and we're going to capitalize on it. He capitalizes on all that low-hanging fruit, which is what makes him such a beautiful fit with a matchup attacking forward, because those are the guys that can go get the ugly stuff. Those are the guys that can bully their way to the basket in a fist fight of a basketball game and get easy shots close to the rim. So I really do like the direction that Indiana's heading. I really like the starting lineup they're using right now. The defensive stuff is encouraging. Just got to get the defense, or got to get the offense up to full speed. On the Thunder side, obviously no Jalen Williams is a huge loss. The one thing that really stood out to me was like Shai kind of struggled with some of the physical defense at the point of attack from Nembhard and Neesmith. And so like you could tell there was a lot of like pull up turnaround jump shots that he was leaving short as they were just kind of wearing him down a little bit. Now, again, it's just one game and players are allowed to have bad games. And Shai is on the short list of guys where it's like when he has a bad game, you're like, whoa, that's weird. You don't see Shai do that very often, right? Like, so I'm not coming down on Shai. All I'm saying is like, I am really curious to see what Shai's first playoff run looks like as the number one guy. Just want to see it. Just want to see what it looks like. I want to see if he's the kind of guy that really weathers that physicality well and is consistently great the way that he is in the regular season, or if inconsistency kind of creeps into his game a little bit as that physicality is ratcheted up. The officiating around the league has become more physical in general as of late, which I think is great. I think it's better for the playoffs to for the regular season to mimic the playoff setting. I think it would just help us identify what teams can thrive well in that environment. I just think it's good for the game, right? But yeah, I am curious to see because Shai did struggle a little bit against those Pacers guards last night. The thrill and excitement of March Mania is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, is giving new customers a shot to turn $5 into $150 instantly in bonus bets with any college basketball bet. UConn is currently the favorite to win the title at plus 500. My favorite team, hometown Tucson, Arizona Wildcats, are currently plus 1,300. Plenty of good bets to check out. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 instantly in bonus bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. The crown is yours. You'll know real when you get it. It'll say eBay Authenticity Guarantee, and you'll feel it. Because when it comes to your feet, eBay has your back. Maybe it's a head-turning pair for hooping or a hot new collab. Whatever you're after, when you cop on eBay, you can trust that your kicks will be checked by experts. Not just any experts, sneaker experts who live and breathe the culture. Real people with real hands-on authentication experience. That's what the blue check mark represents on our listings. eBay Authenticity Guarantee, meaning every inch, stitch, sole, and logo is verified authentic through a detailed inspection. So when you finally step into those Grail kicks, you'll realize that the feeling is unlike any other. And with eBay's Authenticity Guarantee, that feeling of real is always within reach. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. All right, I've got 3 quick ones before we get out of here. First one, like 3 kind of side topics, I should say. So Andrew Wiggins on a fast break, running along the middle of the floor. Brandin Podziemski is running his lane on the right side. He's open, but Andrew Wiggins is open too. And I didn't think Wiggins made a bad read in this case going up anyway. But Podziemski gets frustrated, is like, pass the ball. Wiggins starts yelling at him. They get into it with each other. And I didn't think it was a big deal. Didn't think two seconds about it after it happened. And later in the game, when Podziemski and Wiggins were on the floor together, they seemed totally fine. Wiggins was cheering Podziemski on when he was making shots and vice versa. Like, I didn't think it was an issue. And then I started to look on social media and saw a lot of people talking about Podziemski's a rookie that is got too much dip on his chip, so to speak, and is needs to be put in his place. And Andrew Wiggins doesn't need to be taking that from him and all this kind of stuff. And all these people like galaxy braining that conflict, in my opinion. So here's the thing. I have seen this exact type of dynamic dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times playing basketball. I've seen it in like college basketball locker rooms multiple times. This is such a normal part of basketball in the sense that, like, in the heated competitive environment, guys can get frustrated. Great example we just saw, Travis Kelce running up on Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. Andy Reid is one of the very best coaches, if not the best coach in the NFL. Travis Kelce is a legendary tight end. Both of those guys are extremely experienced. Travis Kelce's been in the Super Bowl multiple times before. Andy Reid's been in the Super Bowl even more frequently than Travis Kelce has. They're not in any sort of like truly a problematic predicament. There was no reason for that other than Travis Kelce's a competitor, super competitive dude. He's fired up and he wanted to be involved more, and he ran up on his coach and yelled something. And like, here's the thing. Should Travis Kelce have done that? No. Should he watch that and be a little annoyed and be like, man, I got to have more self-control? Yes. And I guarantee you Brandin Podziemski feels the exact same way. I guarantee you after that, he saw the tape and was like, shit, man. Like, I get it. I was frustrated. Should not have yelled at Andrew Wiggins like that. But it's over. It was over in 5 seconds and it's a total non-issue. This exact same thing happened to me when I was in junior college, my second year playing. And I was up in Utah and it was 2-on-1 fast break. I was trailing the play. Miles Gatewood, our guard, our starting guard, was driving the right wing. And shout out to Miles Gatewood, excellent 3-level scoring guard, one of my favorite players that I played with in my time in college. And running in his right lane, and him and I never had any issues. Like, we were not people that had beef at any point over the course of the season. And it was a 2-on-1. I was trailing him. He missed a layup. I yelled at him to pass me the ball after the play. Mind you, again, I'm 21 years old at this point, so I'm still a competitive hothead now at 32. So you can imagine what I was like when I was 21 years old and didn't know any better. We got into an argument. Miles did the exact same thing that Andrew Wiggins did. Was like, shut the fuck up, as he should have, right? And then our coach actually pulled both of us out of the game, and we ended up having to sit. I felt for like. It was either I can't remember exactly how long we sat, but we had our little like disciplinary measure from the coach. I went back and watched the tape after the play. I wasn't open. I thought it was a 2-on-1 from my angle, but Miles had a better angle because he was coming from the right wing. There was a player trailing me. Had he hit me, there was another guy that could have made a defensive play. So I was just flat out in the wrong. But here's the thing, like, Miles and I buried it and moved on right away. I was wrong. I apologized to him and we moved on. Like, it's just this kind of stuff is so incredibly common in basketball games because like the competitive energy just gets kind of like ramped up. And Steph Curry had an interesting comment earlier on in the season about Podziemski and his like kind of fire that he plays with. And he's like, I would much rather have a guy like that I need to tell to calm down a little bit than a guy that doesn't have that. And I'm trying to get him to show some of that care, to show some of that fight. And I could not agree more with Steph in the sense that like, I mean, not to go at Andrew Wiggins here, but there are some times with Andrew Wiggins where you're like, come on, dude. Like you're the best athlete on the floor. Like, show some fight. Show me what you got, man. Like, there are some times that you get like that. And like, that's the thing. Like, I would much rather have in my foxhole in a basketball game a dude who's a little bit of a hothead than a dude who is like that can go catatonic for extended stretches. And that's the thing. Like, Podziemski is definitely a little bit of a hothead. He definitely has that really high level competitive energy, but that to me is one of his strengths. It's something he will have to learn to control over the years. Like, yeah, you're right. You can't yell at your teammate for missing a read. By the way, that's another thing that we haven't even mentioned. Guess what happens all the fucking time in basketball games? Guys miss open teammates. It happens all the time. Even the best, I've seen the best passers in the NBA miss reads from time to time. It happens. It is, so that's the thing. Like, that's the lesson on the Podziemski side of it, is like, you've got to learn to just kind of control your emotions a little bit better when you're in those situations. But my bottom line is that I'm getting at here, there is no crisis. There's no festering dislike between teammates there. I guarantee you, if you went around the locker room, Podziemski's been struggling a little bit as of late. He's going through a little bit of a rookie wall, a concept we talked about yesterday when we were talking about Victor Wembanyama. I guarantee you they all have his back, and I guarantee you they all view him as somebody that they need. I thought it was really interesting what Steve Kerr said after, it was either in after their last game or it was in a presser, but where he was like, I really do think this team has a chance to make a playoff run. Like, that to me is encouraging, because that's the same Steve Kerr that said last year very differently that he did not think that they were that type of team. So I think that that's encouraging. I don't view this as a speed bump at all whatsoever. And I just wanted to kind of give my 2 cents on what those kinds of arguments mean to me in terms of what basketball games look like in reality. The next question, I should say, the done with the 90s trend. So apparently there's all these clips going around. I've seen a few of them, but just like showing specific examples of like Muggsy Bogues ripping Michael Jordan, or Michael Jordan getting the Ben Simmons treatment, getting like ignored at the 3-point line, or just various stretches of bad basketball that are being displayed and being like, we're so done with the 90s. These guys are being portrayed as the golden age of hoops, and it clearly isn't like that. I want to push back against that a little bit, because for starters, You can take any basketball game, including some of the best basketball games that have ever been played. For instance, like let's take like that Celtics, just for the sake of sticking with something that's recent that we all remember. Look at that Nuggets Celtics game from last week on Thursday. That game was an awesome basketball game. I guarantee you I could find 2 or 3 30-second stretches of that game that look embarrassing bad, where like guy takes a bad shot, other team goes over and turns it over, other team dribbles to the other end and runs someone over and commits an offensive foul. You know, every basketball game has ugly stretches in it. If you're hunting out of an entire decade, I guarantee you will find some hilariously ugly stretches of basketball. That to me, like basketball is very much a read and react sport. And so there are stretches where both teams are really sharp with their reads and it can look super fluid and both teams can look super competent. But then you can also go through stretches where guys make a few bad reads and it can look really bad pretty quickly. Or a guy that ends up in a situation where he has to do more than his skill set's capable of, and it can look ugly. And so I don't think that that's a really fair way to kind of display that sort of era. But at the same time, like I do think it's important to acknowledge that the game is improved. I do think basketball players are better now than they were in the 90s. I think basketball players were better in the 90s than they were in the 80s, in the 70s, and vice versa. I think that this league is in perpetual improvement. I think that's kind of the reason that explains that MJ Ben Simmons clip where MJ is being ignored at the 3-point line. What's happening there is like MJ doesn't want to take a three because like at that point in NBA history, you didn't take that shot very often. Like go into your Google search bar and type NBA league averages. Basketball Reference has a page that just takes every single season of NBA history and just puts team averages during that era. So like offensive rating, offensive rating, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, volume, all that kind of stuff, right? And just go look at how many threes are taken now compared to how many threes were taken in the 80s and 90s. It's not comparable. So like, yeah, like Ben Simmons getting ignored at the 3-point line because he literally cannot shoot is very different than like we know MJ wants to get to the mid-range and he's probably going to hunt that for this possession. And then if he has to take a three at the end of the shot clock, he will. Like that's fundamentally different. That's not something, that's just the game changing, right? And like, that's the thing. Like if you watch skill players from 30 years ago, you're right. They're not going to have the advanced footwork and advanced shot making as skill players from the year 2024. Like, again, like you got to think we've all learned from these guys. I literally watch NBA players and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I want to try that. That's how I learned my step back 3-point shot footwork. I stole it from James Harden. Like a lot of my dribble combinations I stole from Luka in the sense that like I've always been a fan of the way he uses his body language to get guys open, right? Like just recently I've been really impressed by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the way that he ball handles in traffic. And there's some elements to like the real like way he sells every single move, even when he's in traffic, and just how sharp his handle is. There's some stuff there that I'd like to steal. And like what's happening is over the generations, every young basketball player is stealing from the previous generation and stealing. And like we're going to have some, new things that Anthony Edwards does over the course of his career that the next great 2-guard is going to steal. But Anthony Edwards is stealing stuff from Dwayne Wade and from Kobe Bryant and from Michael Jordan. And it just builds on itself in perpetuity. So of course they're getting better, which is exactly why, like, I don't see the point in like when LeBron fans are like, oh, MJ played against plumbers. It's like, no, MJ played against the NBA in his era and LeBron played against the NBA in his era. And so it's impossible to compare across eras as the league has improved, as the game has changed. So the most fair way to rate these players, in my opinion, is to look at specifically how they played in their era. Because as much as Michael Jordan had to play against the 90s NBA, Michael Jordan didn't have the advantage that modern NBA prospects do in terms of training. We just talked about all the footwork and moves that they can steal from modern players. Just the tools that are at their disposal. It's a completely different universe now than it was when MJ was coming out of college in 1984, guys. That's literally 40 years ago. Like this is that's half a century. So like it doesn't make sense to compare him to this era because he just didn't play in this era. And so that's why I kind of look at it in that sense. But again, are the 90s as beautiful a basketball as 2020? No. but are they as ugly as they can be made to appear in short little highlight films? Obviously not. And so I think it's more important for us to respect each of those eras and the way that they built on each other than to put them down just so that we can elevate players from now, when that's not the point. We know they're better. We know they're better now. That's just like the players in 2034 are going to be better. Really quickly before we get out of here, I had a mailbag question yesterday that I wanted to kind of clarify. Someone says, I love you, bro. Best NBA content on YouTube, but I've never seen someone have so many duplicate videos. It's weird. So we kind of talked yesterday in the mailbag about kind of modern podcasting and kind of the way that it's structured. I just wanted to explain to you guys why we do things the way that we do them, just so that you guys know, and a little hint that'll help you guys. Our full episodes are always under a different thumbnail than our breakout clips. So the full episodes, first of all, when you go to the YouTube channel on the homepage, we just list the full episodes. So that's where you can see everything I recorded on that particular day, right? And again, the thumbnails, they have that like giant yellow font mixed with the white font, I think, if I remember correctly. But there's dead giveaway. It's obvious that that's a full episode. We do the breakout clips because of the way YouTube's algorithm works. On YouTube, there's only so much information you can put in a title, and there's only so much information you can put in a thumbnail. So for instance, if I hit 5 topics and one of them is an obscure game in terms of market size, like Thunder Pacers, then like if I market the show around bigger things that are going to get more clicks, like Lakers and whatever, Warriors, whatever, no one's going to click it if they're a Pacers fan. No one's going to click it if they are a Thunder fan, right? Because there's nothing that says Pacers and Thunder on it. So our workaround for that is we will brand the full episode around whatever the most, urgent, popular topic is. But then we put out breakout clips so that we can get out to those fans. We want a clip that says Thunder Pacers on it. That's a repeat. Yes, it's a repeat, but the purpose it serves is so that Thunder and Pacers fans can find it. And so that we can take advantage of the YouTube algorithm to capitalize on that. And that's honestly, that's a piece of advice that I would give to other people that are trying to launch a podcast. You sit down with your buddy and you talk about 4 things, and 2 of them are bigger picture things, and you broadcast those in the main episode. Do a breakout of the other 2 topics so that you can have another crack at the algorithm with a different topic. So again, we're not doing duplicate videos to just like inundate you with videos. The whole point is we want to make it really easily digestible. Full episodes on the homepage. You can find them all there. If you're looking for a specific topic, you can find it under the videos page with all those breakouts. But the primary purpose they serve is on the algorithm. We want the search engine. If you just watched Pacers Thunder last night and you want to see a breakdown and you type in Thunder Pacers reaction or like Thunder whatever, then that video might pop up and we might have an opportunity to reach those people. So that's why we do it that way. And hopefully just by giving that quick breakdown, you guys have a better understanding of it. All right, guys, that's all I have for today, or for this part of today's show. We will be back tonight on YouTube Live after the final buzzer of Lakers Kings. I will see you guys then.